Alright, so I'm trying to platinum over 100 games in a list created by the community. Now, if I can't do this before the channel hits 850,000 subscribers, then I will shave my head bald and look like a base character from a video game. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Alright, so today I chose to platinum Ghostwire Tokyo, which is actually a part of PlayStation's monthly games right now, so I didn't have to spend my weekly food money and I can now eat dinner tonight. Anyways, this game is revered as being very good by a lot of people. Some would say the majority. However, the trophies in it are quite tedious, and you will see just why later on.
That's what I'm saying.
Before that though, the game has a total of 57 trophies with the platinum included. I, however, did get multiple of the DLC trophies throughout the game's progression because the DLC is kind of perfectly integrated to the point where if you play it for the first time like myself, you won't even notice it. So that little counter we always have is going to be above 57 by the end of the game, just so you are aware. Stage 1 to platinuming this game, however, is to simply beat the story like usual. The game first opens up with the initial plot setting, having us watch as the main character we play as drive super duper fast with his motorcycle through Tokyo, trying to get to the hospital to see his sister who has been in an accident. And as speeding with motorcycles goes, we end up crashing into a truck and dying. But then we see the game's title logo, ensuring that we are playing it and not a Yakuza ripoff game. Anyways, this is when the game starts to get weird and confusing. Yes, I know, we just started. But essentially everyone in Tokyo ends up disappearing or vanishing, as they call it. The main character, however, does not and ends up coming back to life from dying with a voice in his head. That voice is named KK, and he is also our guide throughout the story because he knows things that we don't. Also, he is the source of our powers that we get throughout. So the game's goal is to then basically just figure out why everyone vanished, try to save them, and then also try to stop the main villain named Hanya, who is after our sister. She possesses a great value, apparently. That kitty cat must be sacred on these streets. Anyways, we finally got to play and immediately got thrown into a foursome against 3 men dressed way too nice for the occasion. Also, it's not raining. Why do they have umbrellas? But aside from poor fashion choices, these are called visitors and are the term for enemies throughout the game. The first objective of today was to go to our sister's hospital, we almost made it to in the living realm, and find her room. While inside, I also got my first trophy from pulling a visitor's core out. This is the instant kill mechanic that appears once you have done enough damage to them. Anyways, we then just fought more visitors on the path to her room. Once inside of it, the game then does another mind game with us and some very weird scene swapping. The main villain also shows up and totally just takes her with him, and also like ruins us basically. Yeah, we were not prepared to fight that final boss already. We just started. This is pretty much just Call of Duty SBMM low-key. But after he won, we ended up in a very pretty swampy area with lots of flowers, and that voice in her head manifested once more into a real thing. I don't know what's up with so many games and their obsession with heads and their voices, but it's relatable. KK, however, who is this man and our voice, was just confirming we want to be his fleshlight for the story, and essentially confirming again if we want to do this mission of saving the world or not, and we agreed. It then takes us back to the hospital and to continue the torture. We also found out that our sister was in a fire accident partially caused by us, but not 100%, so it's a touchy subject. I then returned back outside of the hospital once getting the control again, and we got the first story trophy of the game right here. The game then takes us on a little road trip, having to travel to numerous places in the city. We also learned and had to do the first Torii Gate, which is like a sacred place that once cleansed removes fog around the game, and it's a safe zone slash fast travel location. I also did get a trophy from doing the first one right here. Inside the gate after, it always spawns in a sort of shrine with valuables, and once I picked up one of them, I got a trophy for grabbing my first relic of the game. We then made it to KK's apartment, which again serves as an early safe zone and point where lots of story happens, but the overall goal for most of this game was to just go around and clean up corruption and cleanse gates to clean fog. While doing another gate later, I also found my first voice log of the game, which is yet again another collectible. Oh, have I mentioned that there is an insane amount of collectibles yet? Oh no, I haven't. Well, Jesus Christ, there is, my God. Anyways, I got another trophy a few minutes later from killing 3 visitors with 1 explosion from these red crystals that, explode. A while later, I was then back in the story track and had the objective of climbing the tallest tower in the game to get to this observatory deck and use binoculars to spot or scour the area for things. Side note though, climbing this tower for the first time had an insane amount of enemies on it and it was kind of challenging to get up. But once I made it to the destination and started looking through the binoculars, we spotted a man that looked a lot like the main villain of the story. So we then had to chase after him, of course. This led us into the Shibuya Underground, which is the most annoying place in the game because it just has enemies shoved into it like nothing else. Also, you have to come back for certain collectibles, which is dumb. While in here, however, we also encountered the first boss fight of the game against a guy who transformed into a giant creature named Yasukodokudokudo. I don't speak Japan, I'm sorry. But the fight wasn't really hard, and honestly, I would be one to say that fighting 7 normal visitors is harder than any boss in this game, and that's on God. But beating him didn't give us a trophy, which is kind of cringe, and instead I had to just escape the underground without KK because he got mad at us for not killing the guy totally. So then after I crawled out, I also had to go find KK again. Once I did, we regrouped together or something, and then got a cutscene showing us what the evil man is doing to our poor sister. Talk about 50 Shades of Grey. This is 50 Shades of Black, bro. What the hell? But after that, a giant spire of light appeared, and the goal for the next chapter is to get to it. Before that, though, this current chapter did end with another story trophy pop. On the way to the light, I also encountered my first containment box event. This is an event that occasionally pops up around the game and has you defeat a few visitors coming at you trying to destroy the boxes of spirits or souls. And once I did one 100% successfully, I got this trophy. We did, however, take a detour from the Pillar of Light chasing and instead had to find one of KK's associates named Rinko, who was sadly inside of a building. The scariest thing in this game, exploring confined areas. But inside, I did absorb my very first Magatama, which is used in skill point upgrades from this very gross looking creature in the wall, and I got a trophy from that. Anyways, next I found Rinko down in some room and she was just hacking away into the mainframe, which in turn caused a lot of enemies to come after her and I had to protect the silly goose from dying. During this, I ended up also reaching 50 cores pulled for another combat trophy, and we then basically just kept on fighting till winning and chatting to Rinko a bit before leaving. Very simple. A bit later, I also got a DLC trophy, I think from finding some graffiti on a wall, which is a type of new content added on, I assume. Oh yeah, I also pet a dog, which was awesome. This is the best game ever, and I got a trophy from that. I was then just going to my objective and I found my first Jizo statue and prayed to it for a trophy. Side note though, these are another big collectible and actually helpful since they give you stat boost. And that was basically all the trophies I would get for another hour or so until finally making it to the Pillar of Light, which is the objective we have been after this entire chapter and have yet to actually do. But I finally did make it there after getting rid of the fog and doing other BS if the game asked me to. Upon reaching it, a cutscene triggered as you would expect. We ended up getting teleported to a room full of bad people, and the main villain I think is also here. Overall though, we just got sent to another boss fight like you would imagine. But dude, this fight was against some freaky bitch and you could only damage her from behind using this one area to stealth in and out of. Sounds easy and simple, and it kind of is, but after getting her down to one hit, she begins to just kind of run around, and that makes it very hard to stealth because once you begin running after her, she can hear you, obviously. So I spent a lot longer here than I imagined or would ever want to. It was quite a bit of torture, I won't lie. Eventually though, I did do it of course and won the fight. However, we didn't win against the villain because he kind of just became a giant and then ran away. This is so not fair, dude. However, that was basically it for the chapter, and I got another story trophy right here. We are also halfway done with the story, might I add, but this is also when the game gets a bit weird and where I turned away from the story for good reason. But basically, chapter 4 had this great deal of stuff, but ultimately we had to make a motorcycle capable of traveling through the fog to get to the villain dude and kind of leave the map, which in turn made some side quests not possible after, and you had to do all of those in the game for a trophy. So I just played up until getting the prompt to get on the motorcycle, and then I decided to go do all the side quests and a lot of other side activities because most of the trophies in this game are just from side content in general. Before reaching that point, however, I did get 3 trophies during the beginning of chapter 4. The first one was from putting 10,000 currency into these offering boxes and getting nothing because prayer is subjective. I then got another trophy from rejoining with KK after being separated in a fight, which happens when battling hard enemies. And then finally, I just blocked a lot of times for another combat trophy. I then reached that point of the game I was mentioning where it asked me to hop on the good old bike. And welcome to stage 2/3 of the trophy guide, which we are going to do some of right now because I'm super duper stupid. The first trophy I got during this spasm of trophies was from cleansing all of the gates within the game, which is kind of unmissable because you have to do this regardless for the platinum. I then got, I think, another DLC trophy from eliminating one of the new enemies, which is some fat invisible Lizzo wannabe. Kind of annoying to deal with, by the way. Maybe that one should have just stayed as a concept. But then I did get a base game trophy from praying to every Jizz statue around the game. Shout out Jizz. I also then began the side quest grind officially and did my first one right here, which was a trophy. Next, I also looked at the trophy list a little more closely and noticed one of the things I had assumed I would need to do but didn't quite realize how bad it actually was. Essentially, in this game, there's districts and a certain number of spirits or souls scattered throughout them that you can capture with your Katashiro or something, and then you have to deposit them through a phone box to save them. And you have to get 100% of them saved or more for numerous trophies later, which is an insane grind, and if you've done this, I'm so sorry for you because I know your pain. But to help with this, I began going for those souls while doing other things right now, and I bought the maximum amount of Katashiro right here to make it easier to save souls and not have to go to the phone booth over and over, which was also a trophy. I then actually got a trophy next from saving 25% of the spirits overall right here. The next trophy I got was then called In Sync from wiring in 10 times. Now we all know what locking in is, but how about wiring in? It's basically just this game's ultimate move like many others, and here's the trophy. I then did another collectible trophy next from finding all of the Tanuki, which are a type of raccoon or something, so here's that. And upon finding them all, I then had to talk to the King Pen Raccoon guy, which was also my last side quest in the game, and I got that trophy pop right here, accomplishing my main goal for this stage of my playthrough. I did do a few other trophies, however, before restarting up the main story. One of those was from getting every type of talisman in the game. This is just another type of combat move, by the way, but I also got a DLC trophy here with the main game trophy because I got some DLC talisman, I guess. I really don't know. I then just entered photo mode for a very easy trophy next, and I sadly began a completely luck-based and RNG trophy called Don't Worry About It. This is from getting Daiko Pole from the Amikuchi, yeah. Oh my god! Which is a type of mini game in this game that gives you a buff for a limited amount of time or a debuff, making it harder for us. And we have to pull the rarest one, as I mentioned, which just pretty much kills you, but not quite. And to put into perspective how hard this is to get, I did the method which was to save and then do a round and then reload if you don't win, of course. And I did that for over an hour straight without any luck at all. So at one point, I just stared at the moon, longing for love in my desolate heart. And I got a trophy from doing that. What the hell? But anyways, yeah, this luck-based trophy sucks. There is literally no way to get it aside from just trying over and over. And eventually you'll get it, I hope. So here's that trophy pop. I then began the main story again after that actual dog diarrhea. And after hopping on that bike like the game has been asking me to forever, we got a cutscene of us on the bike. No frickin' way. I also got a trophy because that officially finished chapter 4. So now it's time for chapter 5 and 6. These are both away from the main map and very quick, taking only about an hour to finish both of them and also wrap up the game in general. So chapter 5 then began, and this one mostly consisted of a giant boss fight against a very weird looking enemy, but it wasn't hard at all. We then reached another main villain servant, as you would expect, and got to boss battle him as well in the same chapter. Again, the boss battle wasn't hard to do, and I did it. Also, sorry if I've been calling some of these side bosses or people the main guy. They kind of all look similar. But that also then finished chapter 5 with a trophy. Chapter 6 then had a lot more story opposed to fighting, and for the beginning of it, we just walked around reminiscing about the main character's childhood and his relationship with his sister, which was kind of sad low-key. But after getting the courage to go through the final door, we did and got spat out right into the final boss officially, who was, as usual, fooling around with our sister. I don't know how he hasn't done the ritual by now. Bro's work ethic just sucks, I guess. But we chatted with him, then fought him in another very weird fight, which was kind of hard only because you have to hit very specific weak points to damage him. But again, it was overall easy and I saved the day essentially. There was then a kind of sad ending where I think we just walked up this path to our death going to the other side. I'm not too sure, but I think that was the ending of the game. And I then got 2 trophies from beating it, as you would expect to happen. So it's now time to again go back to stages 2 and 3 with the main goal now to get every single soul saved. This took like 15 hours straight of grinding for it, by the way, from my personal experience going after that trophy. And also, once you get all of them saved, you do have to replay the ending of the game again for an alternate ending and a few trophies and key items. On the way getting them saved, however, I got numerous trophies, as you can imagine, with so much playtime. So the first trophy I got during this was a combat one from me pulling out 5 cores from visitors at the same time. And this is actually pretty easy to do if you use the exposure talisman, which auto exposes their cores, and here's that trophy. Many hours later, I then got a soul save trophy for reaching 50% total in the game, and here's that. I then defeated 10 visitors with the stun talisman next for another combat trophy, followed up with a trophy from defeating 50 with a bow shortly after. I also got a DLC trophy next, I'm pretty sure, from cleansing the 1 extra gate that comes with the DLC. And side note, playing through the DLC side missions, which I did do later, is a huge help in getting XP and skill points, just so you know. But back to the main game, I got another combat trophy from kills with the exposure talisman this time. I then multiple hours later, as I mentioned, did one of those DLC side missions, which by the way are scary as shit, and I was tweaking low-key, but I did one and got a trophy from doing it. That then also gave me enough XP to reach level 50 for another trophy from the main game, however. And finally, after 4 more hours of running around mindlessly after souls, I saved at least 100%. And I say at least because you can get much more than 100%, which is nice of the game to give some leeway. However, I still hate them for that trophy. Deeply. But here it is, and my suffering has been alleviated. Slightly. Now, since I had 100% done, I then replayed the ending of the game real quick to get that alternate ending trophy, and I did right here. So now it's really time for the cleanup, and I basically just had some odds and ends collectibles and trying to get skill points for the all skills trophy as well. But during this more running around time, I found every food item in the game randomly, which is a huge W because that is quite a RNG trophy as well. My next trophy was then from finding all of the relics in the game, which is very easy since they appear on the map, and also collectible maps show you where they are are on the webpage. I then spent $1 million in-game currency on random BS needed for trophies, which was also a trophy, and that led me to getting every music song in the game and every outfit in the game as well, which is awesome, and both trophies. I also finally got every single player bead next, which is another collectible and kind of hard to do. However, I got the trophy still. I then found all the voice logs for another collectible trophy and every single landmark after, which I was only missing one after all of this playing somehow. And I then put all my efforts into getting every skill because that's my last real goal before just having combat trophies to do. Now this sounds easy, but it's actually hard because I accidentally bought a bunch of DLC skills which use skill points but don't count for the trophy I need. So I had to really go for that 100% of the 100% skills, and on the way I found 40 different Magatominamenon, which are those weird green things gone from even weirder creatures. But they are also used for skill points and this trophy. About an hour later, after grabbing numerous more KK investigation notes, which all give 20 skill points per note by the way, I had enough for the final skill and got the trophy finally. I now only have combat trophies left and the platinum. First being from killing the last visitor I had yet to in the game and killing every single one for this trophy right here. I then farmed 3 kills inside a bush on visitors next for another trophy. I also accidentally got a trophy from walking on air or floating for 10 seconds using some updraft talisman and getting stuck on a building, so that's cool. I then got a headshot with a bow from 40 meters, which was kind of hard to do, but it was a trophy. And speaking of headshots, I got 20 total with the bow next for another trophy. My last trophy in the main game for the platinum was then to simply get 200 stealth kills using Quick Purge. And I already had about 100 or so from naturally playing it, so I then literally just ran around the game stealth killing enemies for another hour before getting the trophy pop and platinum added on. Was that the best method? Definitely not. But I did do it and got the platinum, as you can see. So that was the Ghostwire Tokyo Platinum Trophy experience. Overall, the game was super good and more just very unique. I have yet to play any game quite like it, which was cool. Although it did get very tedious with those trophies, I'm not gonna hold that to it too harshly when rating it, and I'm gonna give this game a solid 7 out of 10. I know a lot of people say it's like a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, but the story was good, not great in my personal opinion. So yeah, that's it. See you later, alligator.